So far, anything? Did it flip? Okay. That's better. Probably. Had to refresh the page. Nice. It's good to know that I can just interrupt it, because like it was just so laggy from what I could see. But also like Restream's super annoying now, where it's like you're sharing your screen and it like blacks out the like monitor on the latency there. So we'll have to see how it looks with now once I fix this. Okay. And also just make sure, I have to make sure I'm getting audio.
Ya voy.
Oh. I need one more thing. I need to send this over here so I can hear my own audio now. Boobity boo. Okay. Well, I figured it would end the stream. I just wanted to see if it could interrupt, and it did, which was cool. But what was funny is the other one still said it was streaming. Like, how silly. Oh, and now the mic is like drastically different sensitivities between the two fucking applications too. Also, can I fucking mirror my shit? Thank you. Now I can hear.
I can handle that.
Position confirmed.
Take the lead.
Are you? Just keep asking, are you?
No problem, boss.
Understood.
You're overriding
Enemy
the
forces
programming.
closing!
Pathfinders. Oh, y'all are fucked. It's God's will, brothers.
Tenemos una baja.
Oh boy, a promotion.
No hay problema, jefe.
No problem, boss.
Okay.
I understand.
Seems doable.
Are you?
Fuerzas de Advent sobre el
Keep
terreno.
quiet, man.
Are you?
Can't believe it. Can't believe it.
No hay problema.
Here's a little gift from me to you.
I can handle that.
Well done. As we had hoped, the network separation has been temporarily delayed.
Nice. Inflict that burning, it's still gonna die.
Roger that. Whatever you say. Good copy. Moving on target.
Are we pro war crime or anti-war crime?
I'm feeling less stable.
On Overwatch. A useful aid. Justice comes for all!
Motherfucker.
Al menos sabemos dónde están. ¡Oh! ¡Me han dado!
Wenn es sein muss.
Damn that thing!
Ich glaube, ein Stück habe ich erwischt.
Están trayendo refuerzos.
I'm going.
Let's go.
I'm going.
Position flanked. Impressed yet?
What is happening? What the fuck is happening?
Immediately.
Launching!
Sie haben ein Medikit! Sie haben mich flankiert!
Bro, you're saying I have you flanked. You're the one who pulled me over to you. You dumbass.
Colocado en el blindaje.
I'm fine. I'm fine.
I need an evac here! Es wird schon nichts passieren. Benötige Evakuierung!
I don't feel so good.
God's will, brother.
Call 911.
¡Ah, muerto!
Seems doable. Fire in the hole!
I can handle that. Voy a ello.
Auf die Seiten achten! Meine Hände habe ich mir anders vorgestellt!
Closing on target position now.
No! Why would you shoot the fucking dinglebop instead of the fucking target? Are you kidding me right now?
Tiro desviado. My position's been compromised.
You
Who's
deserve
got a
it.
med kit?
Let's go!
Where's that Overwatch? Right over here? Right about here?
Aquí. Toma.
Shouldn't have given away your position throwing up that Overwatch.
Whatever you say.
Target neutralized.
I'm going.
Move, move, move! Advent troop spotted. Objective in sight.
Literally ran into fire, you dumbass.
Whoa! Taking fire over here!
Jet's 4 charges are active, but the aliens are still working to isolate the transmitter. Eliminate any remaining hostiles before they cut it off.
Seems doable.
Moving out. Allá voy. Seems doable. That armor's tough. Me ni verás.
On Overwatch.
I'm on it.
Peasy.
Let's take a brief moment, ladies and gentlemen, to remind you that Lauren Boebert still exists.
That's also pretty cool because I can just replace the screen instead of ending one and to start another one. It's pretty good.
Regardless of what you think about the unidentified anomalous phenomena hearings, and I'll be honest with you, I don't think much one way or another about them. If there are aliens living amongst us, please do something.
Yeah, let's see some efficacy here.
If you are here, fix global warming and bring us
Don't you see,
Medicare
Sam?
for all.
Don't you see, Sam? They are here. They're the lizards running the show, and they're trying to terraform the planet, Sam.
So some high-speed rail too, maybe.
High-speed rail would be great. Teleportation.
This thing where you go and float around like, I don't know, weather balloons high up in the atmosphere. Not enough, guys.
You are from a far more technologically advanced planet than ours. Let's get a 25-hour work week going here. Let's do this. But in the meantime, until that stuff happens, it's very hard for me to take a hearing seriously when Michael Schellenberger is there testifying.
Oh, God.
But regardless,
Schellenberger.
this is, I mean, look, I think it's quite possible that there are, Defense Department and agencies that are making drones that we're picking up or whatever. I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
I do not think that it's going to materially impact us in any way. I would much rather, investing, and it certainly wouldn't be at the top of my list, but I would rather investing in NASA and than this stuff. But whatever, it's not that expensive. But here's Lauren Boebert asking the question that any of us who have spent time watching Battlestar Galactica over and over again, and its prequel, Caprica,
What's Battlestar Galactica?
Genuinely care about.
Okay, so there are rumors that have come up to the Hill of a secretive project within the Department of Defense involving the manipulation of human genetics with what is described as non-human genetic material, potentially for the enhancement of human capabilities, hybrids. Are any of you familiar with that? Yes or no?
No, ma'am.
I am not, ma'am.
I'm not.
No, ma'am.
Okay, I would like
Let it go a little bit more.
to know, with Immaculate Constellation, how does this relate to UAP activities, Mr. Schellenberg, in oceanic environments? Are there any instances where the Navy or other maritime forces have encountered UAPs that could not be explained by known technology or natural phenomena?
Yeah, the Immaculate Constellation covers both terrestrial and oceanic, and there's actually a number of cases described in the report that occur in the ocean.
And do you believe that there is a concerted effort by the Pentagon?
Okay, I don't care about this. I mean, the best part about this is that she has no idea what she's reading. This is all just for her to get some like free, essentially like publicity and support. Fantastic.
Immaculate Constellation. I'm sorry, like we get for as long as I've been doing this, there's a certain amount of people, and look, I was a big X-Files fan growing up, maybe one of my favorite TV shows of all time. I do want to believe, and that's why I come at this from a God that failed perspective. This isn't real. None of this is real. This is a big distraction. This is a way to get DARPA and Elon Musk and people like him giant contracts to point things to surveil the skies. There's no ETs out there. There's at most a very advanced piece of technology that we are kind of showing off, like we did with the stealth bomber or with drones.
I would agree with Matt, except for I don't care enough to even exert the tiniest bit of effort to agree or disagree with Matt. I am completely agnostic on this. My sense is when I see Lauren Boebert and Michael Schellenberger sitting in a room talking about something, my first instinct is to believe this is a scam, because I don't think either one of those people are serious individuals.
Nope.
Who are interested in anything other than chasing some type of publicity. Again, that doesn't mean that I don't think that there's a possibility of, extraterrestrial life, but
somewhere,
if they're living amongst us already, I don't care until they do something. And if they've had the ability to be amongst us all this time, like, we're not preempting anything.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sure I get the point. The left is big pharma plug. I'm a pharmaceutical regulatory policy specialist in the D.C. area. I've been trying to call into the show to share FDA, HHS, and industry concerns and implications of what chaos is to come under Trump. Patients, caregivers, and employees of these entities need to know what's likely coming and how to protect themselves. I'm calling in again with a 202 area code. Do we have time to turn on the phones? Yeah, we'll turn on the phones for a second. How's that? Maybe we'll take one or two calls. Oh, what's going on here?
Oh my goodness.
I can't get a, oh, there we go. All right, 646-257-3920 is the number. Maybe if we see that 202 number, we'll take a call or two. We'll see. Kowalski from Denial. I don't know, guys. There are a lot of crop circles out there where I am. Emma's distant cousin.
Kowalski.
And I am from a DSA member wrote in saying he wiped his ass with Veterans Day. I don't know if he was joking, but as a veteran who's on the left and active, doing what I can to make things better. That sort of thing isn't very welcoming to current and former service members who may want to get involved. It's not the biggest deal. Plus, I don't care for the pomp and gestures that come that day. It just rubbed me the wrong way. Yeah, I don't know that it's necessary to be that way to people who many times we should have a lot of sympathy and empathy for.
And understand the structural reasons that, say, funnel people towards that.
I just remember, like, in the wake of the financial crisis, we were in the Dollar Pizza District area when we first launched this show in 2010. And I just remember hearing two guys talking, older guys, probably my age now, talking about one of their kids who went back into the military because he couldn't find a job. He had come back from Iraq and then went back into the military, couldn't find a job. Tater tot, I won't waste my breath on this. Sam wastes breath on it. I think, I didn't say waste my breath on it. I just don't have the effort to care. But it's interesting to see on the fun half of the program, charlatanizing. Right? Did I say that correctly?
Charlatanizing?
No, I think so.
Charlatanating?
Impresario, that's the word I was looking for what Musk is. Like, just constantly touting things.
Hey, Donald Trump has once again told us just how far he's willing to go to get his way.
Thanks for all being here.
Okay.
Back in the late 80s, Chico Mendes, a Brazilian rubber tapper, who turned environmental activist, said the following, and I quote, "At first I thought I was fighting to save rubber trees. Then I thought I was fighting to save the Amazon rainforest. Now I realize I was fighting for humanity." At the time, I was a United States Senator, working with a great Republican senator named Dick Lugar from Indiana to enact a new law. The United States would relieve other countries of debts owed to us if they commit to protecting their own forest. These debt for nature swaps have since protected nearly 70 million acres of forest worldwide. And today, I'm proud to be here, the first sitting U.S. president to visit the Amazon rainforest to recommit to protecting the rainforest like this one. Most powerful solutions we have to fight climate change is all around us. The world's forests. Trees breathe carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere.
Trees don't breathe.
And yet each minute, the world is chopping down the equivalent of 10 soccer fields worth of forest each minute. That's why we've been a leader internationally in the fight to end and reverse deforestation by 2030.
Somebody help this man.
That's why we've led by example at home, conserving an area of the U.S. lands and waters larger than the state of the nation of Uruguay. We've done it by fighting for tribal partners, lifting them up, indigenous communities, and the most impacted by deforestation and climate change. Today's announcement will support indigenous communities to do the same here in the Amazon. We all know there's much more we can do and must do at home and abroad. That's why today I issued an official proclamation to support the conservation of nature around the world. Because the fight to protect our planet is literally a fight for humanity, for generations to come. It may be the only existential threat to all our nations and to all humanity that exists. With today's proclamation, I'm proud to announce, first, the United States Development Finance Corporation will mobilize hundreds of millions of dollars in partnership with a Brazilian company to reforest the Amazon. Second, we're launching a Brazil Restoration and Bioeconomy Finance Coalition to mobilize at least $10 billion by 2030 to restore and protect 20,000 square miles of land. And third, I'm announcing an additional $50 million to the Amazon fund that's already given $50 million. Fourth, we'll provide the funding to help launch President Lula's important new initiative, the Tropical Forest Forever Fund. It's in the interest of all of us. The United States benefits from that as much as any other country does, including here in Brazil. I'm also so proud to support bipartisan legislation to launch a new foundation for international conservation that would leverage public funds to mobilize billions more.
Imagine if he stayed president 4 more years. You know what I just found out? He hadn't had a full cabinet meeting in a long time because he wasn't able to. And he still wasn't stepping aside. This is so wild to me.
In private capital. The fight against climate change has been a defining cause of my presidency. My administration first rejoined the Paris Agreement on climate change.
That's gonna last a while, bro. Great job. Great accomplishment.
We've launched a 150 nation strong global methane pledge. We delivered a record climate financing to developing countries. We pledged that we would deliver $11 billion per year by 2024. I'm pleased to announce today that we not only kept that promise, we've surpassed it. Back home, I signed the most significant climate change law in history, a law that positions us to cut carbon emissions in half by 2030. This generated $450 billion in new clean energy investments. And that's created hundreds of thousands of good-paying jobs and a manufacturing boom as well. Folks, we don't have to choose between the environment and the economy. We can do both. We've proven it back home. It's no secret that I'm leaving office in January. I will leave my successor and my country in a strong foundation to build on if they choose to do so. It's true, some may seek to deny or delay the clean energy revolution that's underway in America. But nobody can reverse it. Nobody. Not when so many people, regardless of party or politics, are enjoying its benefits. Not when countries around the world are harnessing the clean energy revolution to pull ahead themselves. The question now is, which government will stand in the way and which will seize the enormous economic opportunity? Let me close with this. It's often said that the Amazon is the lungs of the world. The Amazon is the lungs of the world. But in my view, our forests and national wonders are the heart and soul of the world. They unite us. They inspire us. They make us proud of our countries and heritage. A bridge to the past and to our future. A birthright we pass down from generation to generation. The Amazon rainforest was built up over 50 million years. 50 million years. History is literally watching us now. So let's preserve this secret place for our time and forever, for the benefit of all humanity. Thank you very, very much.
The Sveriges Riksbank Prize in Economic Sciences in honour of Alfred Nobel, known more commonly but less correctly simply as the Nobel Prize in Economics, is an annual prize awarded to economists who have made significant contributions to the social sciences. The reason why the Nobel Prize in Economics technically has a different name is because it was not one of the original prizes established by Alfred Nobel when he set up the foundation to clean up his public image as a bomb maker. It was later added by the Swedish Central Bank, which funds the prize money separately from the other awards, which come out of the Nobel Foundation. The joke is that economists wanted a seat at the table with the real scientists, and the only way to get there was to get a sovereign central bank to foot the bill. Now, that's a little bit unfair because, well, it hurts my feelings, but also because economics does genuinely have the capacity to massively improve the lives of billions of people in the same way that the other sciences and disciplines do if they're implemented correctly. There is probably no greater example of that ability for practical economics to make the world a better place than the winners of this year's prize. It was awarded to these three gentlemen, Darren Acemoglu, Simon Johnson and James A. Robinson. Beyond their specific contributions to the social sciences that they won this year's award for, these three gentlemen are genuinely some of the most influential economists in the world. Acemoglu and Robinson are probably best known for their book Why Nations Fail, which is effectively a summarised version of what they won their prize for, but their work, as well as the work of Simon Johnson, goes beyond that. Their theories, studies and recommendations have impacted policy in some of the most vulnerable economies in the world, and they've also been used to make sure some of the most prosperous countries in the world stay that way. These three men have had such a profound impact on the field that when I congratulated them on their prize, I rather awkwardly admitted that I assumed they'd already won it. Eesh. Anyway, by pure academic metrics, Acemoglu himself is the third most referenced economist in the world, with his work being cited more than Krugman, Friedman, or even Keynes. What they won their award for specifically, though...
How common is a full cabinet meeting? That's a good question. I do not know.
Is their explanation...
It's not... Yeah, they said he was physically not able to.
For why some countries are rich and some countries are poor. So basically the biggest question in all of macroeconomics. Today, the top 20% of countries in the world are 30 times richer than the poorest 20%, and even though the world is growing wealthier as a whole, the ratio is not changing, which means the poorest countries are not catching up. Obviously, the important question here is why, which this year's laureates have presented a compelling solution to in their collective decades of research. Their theories address a lot of macroeconomic results that just don't inherently make a lot of sense on a surface level, like why some countries that are completely devoid of natural resources, arable land, or even a good position for trade are hundreds of times wealthier than other countries that are literally sitting on top of gold mines. If all that wasn't enough by itself, probably one of the biggest reasons that this year's winners were chosen was because they offer solutions to these issues and workable strategies to avoid them becoming a problem in the first place. So, what were the ideas that won this year's Nobel Prize? Where can they be seen in the real world? And finally, why are they raising alarm bells about our immediate future? To truly understand any country's modern economy, it's essential to examine its historical evolution, including the significant political and economic shifts that shaped the nation. But learning about the past isn't just for economists. Uncovering the truth of your own family history can be just as fascinating and insightful. We've partnered with MyHeritage, a platform that lets you discover the stories of your relatives and your ancestors by searching through over 19 billion historical documents for you. Charlie, one of our team at Economics Explained, used MyHeritage to find details about members of his family, and especially of his grandfather on his mother's side, who was a Holocaust survivor. There aren't many basic records like his birth certificate for obvious reasons, but by looking through connections he was able to create a pretty comprehensive map of his family dating back to the late 1800s and find out his great-grandmother's maiden name and her extended family, the Jacksons. The search doesn't stop there. With truly amazing insights like a newspaper clipping about Charlie's great-grandparents' wedding in 1895 and images of his grandfather's engineering patents. And once he added a lot of his immediate family, the Instant Discoveries page gave him the marriage records of his mother's parents from 1953 in Westminster in the UK, and further research surfaced places like Venezuela, which are sitting on top of enough oil to make their residents generationally wealthy, are poor, while Ireland, a country with very few natural resources, has a GDP per capita almost 25 times greater. Similarly, landlocked countries are largely some of the poorest nations in the world because of restricted global trade via ocean shipping, which kind of makes sense. Except for the fact that a few landlocked countries are some of the richest places in the world, with Switzerland, Luxembourg and Liechtenstein being particular standouts. Finding a common trait that determines economic success or failure seemed pretty elusive until this year's winners suggested that it wasn't natural resources, geographic position, population sizes, or anything like that which separated wealthy nations from poor nations. It was instead, almost universally, the stability and reliability of those countries' institutions. At its most foundational level, an economy is really just a system for effectively allocating resources between participants. And the best way to ensure that participants feel compelled to create value for that system is for them to reliably be rewarded for their efforts. Now, this applies to all institutions, from something as large as central banks and national treasuries, all the way down to local planning offices, small businesses, the media, and even individual public servants. If an economy is full of
Yeah, God, I'm trying to think where I heard it. I know it was today. I don't know.
Managed, honest, and effective institutions, then its people, potential investors, businesses, and the government itself can get to work producing value, confident in the fact that their investments, in whatever form they take, won't be yanked away from them. A worker in an advanced economy with good institutions can do something like confidently spend years studying for a degree that would give them access to a skilled profession like engineering, because that country has institutions in place to make sure that the degree they're getting is from a reputable institution. There are bodies in place to require that degree to get a license. That license is needed to sign off on engineering projects, and that engineering projects get paid for because there are fair and impartial courts to enforce contracts. A worker from an economy without any of these institutions would find it difficult to make a living designing buildings if contracts just go to whoever has the best government connections, and if there are no systems in place to make sure that qualifications are met, then there probably won't be the same investment into obtaining those skills in the first place. Even something as simple as a government department that issues driver's licenses based on reasonable and fairly tested standards means that insurance companies will have more confidence in insuring truck drivers, which makes local trade more commercially viable, which helps businesses operate, which employs people who can pay taxes to an effective tax agency to fund services like a government department that issues licenses. Now, of course, this is just one very oversimplified example, but the core idea is the same. Advanced economies with good institutions let people invest a lot of resources into becoming highly specialised, safe in the knowledge that if they efficiently do their specific job, there are systems in place to make sure that they can trade that work in for everything else they'll need. If everybody in an economy can become more specialised in something that they do really well, then the economy will be richer. Now, this is a sound theory that does hold true across basically every economy in the world today. It's almost impossible to think of a poor country that has good, fair, and reliable institutions. Likewise, it's equally difficult to think of a rich country that has stayed rich without these institutions. Now, this year's laureates weren't actually the first people to recognise this correlation, but correlation doesn't equal causation. It's possible that rich countries just have good institutions because good institutions are expensive. A government that pays all of its workers well enough to avoid the temptations of bribery, big, well-funded education centres and financial systems employing well-qualified and competent managers are all kind of expensive. What's more is that in an increasingly globalised world, there is the temptation for individuals and businesses that do operate these institutions to just move to rich countries where they can be paid more for their services in a global phenomenon most commonly referred to as brain drain. So, the first thing that the laureates had to show was that good institutions made countries rich, instead of rich countries just being able to afford good institutions. The way they did this was by looking back through history and tracing the scars of colonialism. In their research of economic history, the laureates found interesting patterns amongst former colonial regions. The regions that were the richest before colonialism were the poorest after colonialism. All other things being equal, this shouldn't be the case because wealth before modern economic systems was primarily determined by how arable the land was and if it had natural resources. Not too dissimilar to the assumptions of today. The difference was that when the colonial empires started operating in regions that were already wealthy and prosperous, they had to establish institutions that would suppress the existing local populations and turn them into a subservient labour force to help them with extracting resources. On the flip side, less prosperous regions with less dense populations weren't quite as threatening, but unfortunately for the colonisers, they had to do a lot of the work themselves. The institutions that were established in the regions that were wealthier before colonialism were all about controlling and taking advantage of the existing population. This meant that when the colonial empires left or were forced out, it was easy for new parties to come in and take advantage of the same institutions that were all about controlling people. These institutions, on top of being more prone to poor management and corruption, also encouraged economic exploitation rather than productive development. Now, back 400 years ago, that was a perfectly good way to claim a lot of wealth, but these days, the wealthiest economies are those that can encourage value creation rather than value extraction. It also didn't help that the empires running these militarised colonies also mostly left after they were kicked out, creating a power vacuum and taking with them their knowledge of how to run these institutions, even if they were highly exploitative. Now, on the other hand, the regions that had smaller, less dense populations were simultaneously less threatening to the colonial empires that didn't have to go up against a standing military, but also less useful because there wasn't a ready-made labour force provided to them. This meant that they had to provide their own labour force through colonial settlers, even if their work would be heavily supported by slave or convict labour imported from elsewhere. The institutions set up in these kinds of environments, most notably the modern-day USA, but also Canada, New Zealand and Australia, had to support these independent operations rather than treating the whole colony as a worksite there exclusively to produce spices or tea or whatever. These settler colonies had to encourage people to travel from Europe to make a life there, so they created systems to protect their investments, dish out property rights, and give them political liberties that were clearly not afforded to the indigenous inhabitants of the other colonies. Again, when these colonial empires took a step back or were forced out, these regions that were less prosperous before colonialism just inherited these institutions that were more conducive to running a sound economy. The settlers also tended to remain in these colonies and adopt them as their own homes after claiming independence, which means that there was more continuity and the knowledge of how to manage these institutions was maintained in the new country. Now, it's important to recognise that just because the nations that formed in these regions are more prosperous in the modern day, doesn't necessarily mean that the indigenous population fared that much better, and tragically there is of course still a divide between these groups within these economies, just like there's a gap between these economies. Now, with that essential piece of context, one of the clearest examples of this playing out in the real world was actually outlined in the announcement of this year's winners in something that they've rather poetically called the Tale of Two Cities. The city of Nogales is divided by a fence that runs east to west. In the north, Nogales, Arizona boasts incredibly high incomes by global standards, a long life expectancy, good access to education, and of course they have good, reliable institutions that provide property rights, legal protections, a stable currency, a relatively corruption-free system of rules and regulations, and all of this is overseen by representative governments all the way up from the local mayor to the president. On the other side of the fence, Nogales in Sonora, Mexico is considerably poorer, doesn't enjoy the same quality of life, and has significant issues with organised crime and corruption. These are two halves of the same city that share the same culture, the same geography, the same climate, and even the same heritage. The only difference is whether they're operating under the institutions of the USA or the institutions of Mexico. Mexico was home to the Aztecs, which during the Spanish colonial period was something that needed to be controlled.
Pause. Just Google some more. Somewhat conflating answers. One claim. I'd have to go back and listen to whatever it was.
And has contributed to institutions that are less representative even to this day. It was this historical context and dozens of other examples they've studied across the world that allowed this year's laureates to back up the idea that good institutions do create rich economies. It's not just that rich economies can afford to have good institutions. Now, that might sound like a lot of background research just to prove a causal relationship, but with stakes this high, it was essential. Otherwise, their advice to nations focusing on creating these robust institutions would be like telling a homeless person to just buy a home. Instead, they've been able to do what a lot of economists would never dare to do, and actually make some constructive recommendations to improve a bad situation. So, Acemoglu, Johnson and Robinson demonstrated a causal connection between running good institutions, which means that good policy can be recommended to support those institutions. The problem is, that's easier said than done. If setting up fair, well-managed institutions could make an economy wealthier with no trade-offs, then obviously every economy would do it. The problem, of course, is that unfairly run institutions often benefit the people who make the policy, and even if they have their people's best interest in mind, running these institutions takes a lot of skills and experience. Now, the first part is obviously the biggest hurdle for a lot of economies. The elites that make the rules receive an economic benefit from making those rules to favour them at the expense of their people, and they don't want to give that up unless they can be sure their economic situation would improve. Now, oftentimes, it actually could by giving back a bit of control. Institutions almost always run better when they're beholden to the people. It is theoretically better to be a national leader of a highly prosperous economy than the despot of a failing state, but there's no guarantee that those people would keep their positions of power and wealth if they introduce fairer systems. This puts a lot of economies into a vicious stalemate where both the ruling class and the people would be better off in a more egalitarian society, but neither side can trust the other to make the first move. Now, what the laureates found throughout history is that the most effective way for economies to transition from one with poor institutions was through the peaceful, non-violent transfer of power, rather than revolutions, which tend to create a whole new ruling class and are just generally more trouble than they're worth. Now, these might not sound like insanely cutting-edge ideas, but it's important to remember that this prize was awarded for work done over decades, empirically showing that fairer and better managed institutions were not only one of the causes of economic success, but probably the biggest cause was huge. And before the work of these men, there was no clear consensus on the economic value of a democracy with checks and balances versus something like a benevolent dictatorship. Now, obviously, it's incredibly hard to distill the work of literal Nobel Prize-winning research into a concise video, but if you want more details, I can wholeheartedly recommend their book Why Nations Fail. It goes into fascinating historical case studies in a style not too dissimilar to the way that we do on this channel, but instead of some random guy on the internet, it's written by two Nobel Prize-winning economists. We were also lucky enough to speak with Professor Asimoglu earlier this year.
Morglu. What is that supposed to mean?
Maybe someone with a background in defense. Oh, wait, hold on a second. What do you mean? Do you mean someone with a background in one of these giant companies who receive no-bid contracts? Is that what you mean? Or do you mean somebody who's actually been in the
Cringe.
The left can't even do sarcasm. Last night, Donald Trump, for Secretary of Defense, tapped Fox host, it's a hard word to say, Pete Hegseth?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the left is very upset. Spoiler alert, he's actually pretty damn cool.
Any general that was involved, general, admiral, whatever that was involved in any of the DEI woke shit, it's got to go.
Now, of course, Crowder knows. Yeah, I don't know. I think I've read similar fucking like UN stuff. But, you know, Steven Crowder, the arbiter of what's cool, a guy who wears holsters.
We celebrate America, Old Glory, and the freedoms our forefathers fought to establish. Freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, the right to bear arms, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You know the thing, as Joe likes to say.
Either you're in for war fighting, and that's it. And that's the only litmus test we care about. You got to get DEI and CRT out of military academies, so you're not training young officers to be baptized in this type of thinking.
We also know we're one nation under God.
Yes. Make sure you train officers to be racist against their... That will make them effective.
There are a lot of folks trying to divide us right now, but we know who we are. We love God, our families, and our republic.
And as far as recruiting, to hire the guy that, you know, did Top Gun Maverick and create some real ads that motivate people to want to serve.
They were never told their wars were stupid or their generals were losers or that NATO didn't step up, that China would unleash a virus. So let's call it the China virus and hold them to account for it.
I'm straight up just saying we should not have women in combat roles. It hasn't made us more effective.
We don't.
Hasn't made us more lethal. Has made fighting more complicated.
I love the way he looks at that, because he looked at it in perspective like a comedy club once. A comedy club owner once said to me, I asked for a guest spot. A guest spot's like a spot that it's unpaid. It's 5 minutes at the beginning.
Yeah, and they told
so I
you
asked
to
for a
get
guest
out
spot, and he goes,
you're
no.
not funny.
And I looked at his paper, and I walked out. And as I was walking away, he goes, hey, I said, I'm not trying to be a dick. It's just with a guest spot on a special event, like it's Mike Epps out there. Are you going to make this show better?
Right.
I was like, well, I don't think I'm going to make it better necessarily.
Yeah.
He's like, well, then why would I have you on the show?
Yeah.
And I love that he said that. Like, women haven't made our fighting force any more lethal.
Right.
Not that they shouldn't be in the military, but in the combat position.
They absolutely should not be in combat positions.
I don't, the argument everyone wants to have is...
They absolutely can be in combat positions, especially positions like scout snipers. As I've said, probably the last 3 days.
Oh, they make it harder. They make it worse. They make it less effective. The argument no one's having is, have they made it more effective? Have they made it more lethal? He just made that point. I haven't heard anybody make that point, and I'm mad at myself for not thinking of it. But
no, it's
absolutely
a great point.
correct.
Yeah, and they have made them less effective, and not just because they're weaker, smaller in stature, and less robust to stressful situations in general. All observably true, but because it does disrupt. I'm going to let you in a little secret, ladies. Men don't like to watch their women get hurt or die. I know you think that the patriarchy is that the reason.
What a bro. Like, are we talking about other soldiers in the combat position? How do you think it's like going to be more impactful based on the gender of like somebody they're serving with dying under enemy fire? I think it's going to be just as fucking impactful. What a fucking douche.
Men have been drafted and go to wars because we all want to come back and beat the shit out of you. The real reason is because men view women as intensely valuable and want to protect women and children. It's also why
you do not value women, bro. Like, you are the last person.
Get to go to the lifeboats first. At least you did before modern feminism.
Well, not anymore.
Yeah,
I identify as a woman. I'm getting out
of here. But in combat, we had a lady who would call in anonymously anonymously, Sergeant Catherine, back when this was just based out of Michigan, and she said, "Yeah, I've seen it happen where you have in combat situations where men where they would usually move on as a unit won't." Because they have to stay with a woman who either can't make it or is injured because of their protective instinct. So, yeah, it does disrupt the entire dynamics. And so there are a bunch of reasons that it makes us less effective. But, yeah, the bottom line question is, okay, what change are we making to the military? Is it making them better at killing people and breaking stuff?
That's what they do. Sometimes they build it up.
Sometimes they build stuff, too, yes.
But are they making that
yeah,
better?
But even then, there's no Bridget the Builder.
To be honest, dude. Never mind.
It's HGTV, right? It's pretty much the same. To be honest, what?
I
don't what? So you like the uniform?
It's an inappropriate joke. I was going to say a woman on a stretcher is faster than a woman off one. So we'll get to our mission more efficiently. I'm sorry.
That was the inappropriate joke. If anything, that joke was more of a joke than like anything that has preceded it.
Joke! It was just a joke. You have legs.
Wait till she gets to use the care chopper, and then she's lowered.
I'm just kidding. My life's been saved by many women.
Yeah. They're great. They're great at fighting. When you watch UFC and it's the women's division, aside from 3 women on Earth, it doesn't just look exactly how you would expect women to fight. All the points you just made are very important, but here's, I think, the most important, the macro point, that you now have a guy who is being appointed who is willing to say it.
Yeah.
Think about that. He said, I just don't think women should be in combat roles. I remember protests. You've had people come up to me and change my minds that were completely unrelated to women in combat roles. Furious about it. But you said...
Okay, they can serve in all branches now. Oh, 2015 is when it expanded completely.
Women shouldn't be in the military. I would say, no, I don't believe that women should be in roles of physical combat. Oh, really? Why? You don't think there's a woman out there stronger than you? Shut up. No one said that. That's not what we're talking about, okay? And you don't believe the argument that you're making because you think that boys
I don't
and girls
believe women should be in combat roles because I think they're inferior to men. But, you know, not sexist.
Shut up. So, look, let's read the announcement from Donald Trump. I really like this shift that we have seen. I mean it, that people are willing to say this. The guy has a tattoo that says, "We the people."
That's pretty awesome for SecDef.
You know Crowder loves him because Crowder is already a crusade apologist.
The Department of Efficiency that's named Doge as a troll job. We need guys with tattoos and Bret Hart glasses, and we need the Elon Musks out there. We need these people coming in and going, okay, guys, we've lost sight of this. This is ridiculous. This is now stupid. It's beyond parody. And some guy can just go, yeah, I don't think you should be in combat roles.
A little bit of sense of humor back in government is the best thing I could possibly ask for.
Absolutely. When they so self-seriously put out an ad of a female soldier with 2 mommies, making the argument that it makes...
Oh my God. They're still so upset about her.
Stronger. How does your 2 mommies scissoring make us stronger? It doesn't make you a bad person.
That's a fucking bizarre thing to say. What a weirdo.
It doesn't make you better at killing Hajis.
Maybe she's got a lot of pen.
She literally she does like a radar, bro. She's not out there killing Hajis.
It's a frustration of not having a dad, Stephen.
Also, she might be better at killing, but that's not the reason why.
Right. It's
because she met all the same standards and practiced, training.
Yes, she was one of 4 ever. We reduced her pull-up challenge to a dead hang. Do you have an idea how embarrassing that is? All right. A statement to Truth Social.
Dead name.
Trump announced it, saying, "I am honored to announce that I have nominated Pete Hegseth to serve in my cabinet as the Secretary of Defense. Pete is tough, smart, and a true believer in America first. With Pete at the helm, America's enemies are on notice. Big notice. Our military will be great again, and America will never back down." Love that movie. The kid did the MMA in the mansion with Ditchikaman Hunzu.
Won't back down.
Oh, never back down. Yes.
So
what are you talking about?
Let's look at this man's record. He's a veteran from Afghanistan and Iraq, two-time recipient of the Bronze Star, an undergraduate degree from Princeton, so the left, you can have fun with that, then a master's degree from Harvard. So he's checking all the boxes where
you need to be a general.
He should be beyond, well, at least being criticized for being unqualified from the left. He wrote the books, best-selling books, Battle for the American Mind and The War on Warriors. He was finalist for Veterans Affairs Secretary in Trump's first term. Of course, to those on the left, and this is why we always try and show you people in positions of authority, because there's nothing that bothers me more than CNN going, and some people say, and some random Twitter person,
Twitter.
Some men are telling women, your body, my choice. Rise in sexism? 8 tweets. So when I say the left tells you that these aren't real qualifications, okay, Elizabeth Warren, let's go to her. A Fox and Friends weekend co-host is not qualified to be the Secretary of Defense.
Ooh.
Donald Trump's pick will make us less safe and must be rejected. Hold on a second, sweetheart. He was made a host because of his qualifications.
Yes.
I bet you he came in to promote his book, and they said, hey, this guy's actually telegenic, and this guy's actually accomplished. And it turns out he's actually pretty well spoken. He didn't start off as a host, dummy. We used to reserve some of those jobs for people who were qualified. I don't know if you know this, but journalists were people, they would move up in the ranks back in the day when many of them didn't even go to college. They managed to get some scoops. They did some good work. It wasn't just a bunch of very privileged college-educated people who decided this was a profession with very little risk, shielded from the outside world. Harry Sisson had this to say. Donald Trump just named Pete Hegseth, a Fox News host, as Secretary of Defense. We are so screwed. How you want to take a shot, Harry, at anything? You're someone whose only qualification is, by the way, is not just talking on camera, but being young enough that it's a gimmick. Because you say nothing that anyone would care to hear if you weren't young, saying, well, I'm the youngest person to insert whatever bullshit here. Let's be real about it. You're not even good at what you do. You're young, and for how that plays out, see David Hogg.
I could put them both in a flak jacket. That's what I say.
Yes. One defense industry
jacket.
Lobbyist at Politico said, who the is this guy? Someone who actually has
that guy.
Someone who actually has an extensive background in defense, that would be a good start. Wait, is this person saying it in a good way? Or is this person being sarcastic?
Ooh, do they know what the Department of Defense
Let me read that
does?
article again. Mission Control. I'm trying to make sure I'm reading this right.
It's from Politico, so.
Said a defense who's granted a nominee to offer someone who actually has. I think this person may be defending him.
They said the lobbyists said they had hoped for someone who actually has an extensive background in defense. That would be a good start.
What? Oh, okay. It's so confusing because this person is retarded.
A little bit.
This defense industry. Can you guys let me know, Mission Control? I need an answer right now.
They said it's sarcastic.
It's sarcastic. Hold on a second. First off, sarcasm is it's the lowest form of comedy, right? It's just it's a not joke. I said this, but what I really meant was the opposite. It's about on par with a girl saying
comedy
she's so
expert,
random.
Steven Crowder.
So, but sarcasm, it only works if what you're saying is the opposite of reality. And again, it's still lazy, and I don't respect it. But it does require, right, that your statement be predicated on precisely being the opposite of reality. So saying, maybe someone who has a background in defense doesn't apply, even if you really, really don't like him, when he's a veteran of Afghanistan, Iraq, 2-time recipient of the Bronze Star, and he's gone to Princeton and Harvard and written books about combat. Right? Ooh. It doesn't apply. Oh, maybe someone with a background in defense. Oh, wait, hold on a second. What do you mean? Do you mean someone with a background in one of these giant companies who receive no-bid contracts? Is that what you mean? Mm-hmm. Or do you mean somebody who's actually been in the The left can't even do sarcasm. So take that background. Again, check the references. Someone who actually has an extensive background in defense, that would be a good start. It doesn't matter what you do. If you're a comedian, right? Whether it's Tony Hinchcliffe, whether it's now Joe Rogan, whether it's anyone here, whether it's Nick DiPaolo, if you're a comedian, the left just goes, no, they're not funny. If you're the wealthiest man on earth and you've made that wealth through innovation, they just go, no, he's a dummy. If you are a recipient twice of the Bronze Star, they go, no, no real background in defense. It doesn't matter what you understand. It doesn't matter what you do. They have to assassinate character because they have no leg to stand on.
And they're missing the point. Our military
Not
is
you,
in
though.
shambles, according
You
to
never
a lot of people who
assassinate
know about the
character.
military and its fighting ability and ability to protect the United States, and our foreign policy sucks. And so they're saying, okay, well, maybe we bring in somebody else to do this job. By the way, I also have one question. What exactly was Pete Buttigieg's qualification to be Secretary of Transportation? That turned out to be kind of important with shipping and everything shutting down.
Well, he did have a train ran on him, but I think it's cool. Like, don't you think it's cool that our government's full of like entrepreneurs, Ivy League educated veterans? I think this is a cool thing.
Yeah, exactly. Isn't it cool? You're like, oh wait, hold on a second. This guy's gonna be in charge of the military. What is? Oh wait, he has a tattoo. He's potentially killed people. He received the Bronze Star. Oh, hey, great. You know what? We've tried a bunch of pencil pushers. Let's go a different direction. We know he's articulate. We know he can communicate, which is a very important tool to be effective in leadership, because he also happened to be a broadcaster. Let's give it a shot. Oh, no, that's right. Because he said women shouldn't be in combat roles, he has no qualifications. By the way, let's just assume that you don't agree with me. Let's assume that there are things you don't like about this man here. Okay, but we can all agree there is a 0% chance that he's worse than current Secretary Lloyd Austin, who, by the way, to give you an idea, charge of defense, disappeared for days without even notifying the president.
That's a problem. That's a bit of a problem.
I mean, we have a stricter sick day policy here. It's like, at least let us know.
Like, where's the Secretary of Defense?
Well, he's probably busy out dressing like this. This is the other,
Oh, come on.
What the hell? That's not regulation.
He's like a stormtrooper if it were a faggot.
I didn't even notice. That's hilarious.
Okay, that's enough of that. I'm surprised that's even on YouTube, dropping it like that. And, that's my word. He can't just appropriate it like that. That's fucked up, Steven. Needs to wear shirts that fit him as well. You're not a femboy.
Look, man, I mean... On the move. I'm on the move.
Up the bulk of the Advent forces we've dealt with. They're disciplined and well-equipped, but their obedience makes them predictable.
Legen wir endlich los.
Steer clear of those berserkers. They can't do much from range, but they're lethal up close. Our resistance contacts had heard rumors Advent might be rolling out a heavy infantry armor system. Looks pretty tough.
Is it clear? Orders confirmed. Moving out.
I guess that'll be okay. As Templar warriors, my followers specialize in wielding psionic energy, mastering the power that belongs to all who are truly of this earth. Through intense focus, we can twist the very fabric of the world around us to suit our needs.
Didn't get through the
We
armor.
are known to them. I am trusting you.
Move into fire position. If you say so. I got it, right?
Cover! Hunt him down! Good copy. Moving on target. Enemy down. I strike for my people.
The strength of the Templars ebbs and flows with the tide of combat. As we focus our energy, our power increases and can be unleashed upon our enemies.
That was almost too easy, my friend.
Oh my god.
Don't worry, that's been handled. Roger, I've got my eyes on it. Bin getroffen! Bin getroffen! I will return to the void.
Uh-huh. kind of thinking may have to restart. Because 3 pods.
Bin unter Beschuss!
You dogs couldn't kill me. Foolish men are shooting at me.
This is getting dangerous! My power leaves me!
Yeah, you're definitely.
Former U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations and President Trump's longest-serving national security advisor, John Bolton. Mr. Ambassador, thanks so much for being here with us. I just first want to ask you about the breaking news that we've been reporting on. President Biden approving Ukraine's use of these long-range U.S. weapons inside of Russia. What do you think about that move?
It's about damn time is what he should say.
I'm just worried it's too little, too late. This should have happened 2 years ago, and it's
called it. Easy Bolton prediction. Now, the real question is, how is he going to transition this to why Israel needs more guns as well, and Iran bad?
emblematic of the sad reality that although the United States wasn't able to deter the Russian invasion, for this 2.5 years, Russia has largely deterred the United States and NATO from providing adequate assistance to Ukraine on a strategic basis. It's been one long public debate after another, going back to, shall we supply ATACMS to the Ukrainians at all? First it's no, then there's a debate, then there's yes. Should we supply the Ukrainians Abrams tanks? First it's no, then there's a long debate, then it's yes. Should we supply the Ukrainians with F-16s? First it's no, then there's a long debate, and it's yes. Now, can we allow the Ukrainians to use ATACMS inside Russia?
What is he going to say?
After a long debate, now it's yes. But it's 2 months until Donald Trump is inaugurated, and I think there's little doubt what's going to happen here. Aid to Ukraine is most likely to diminish significantly, and it's, I think, the failure of the past 2.5 years to supply weapon systems on a strategic basis. It's a major contributing factor to the military gridlock we see now.
Yeah, the timing of all of this is pretty specific, and as our Kevin Liptak was reporting it, really, he says, in the eyes of U.S. officials, comes at what they're thinking of as an inflection point.
Well, the inflection point was the American election. There could have been an inflection point 2 years ago if the Biden administration, after completely bumbling the initial Russian attack, remember, the intelligence assessment or the political conclusion about the intelligence was, and briefed to Congress days after the Russian attack, that Kyiv would fall in a matter of days and the whole country would fall in a matter of weeks. That was one argument that persuaded the Biden administration not to put more weapons assistance into Ukraine even before the Russian invasion in February of 2022.
And I want to ask your opinion. Russian President Vladimir Putin has previously warned that allowing Ukraine to use these long-range weapons inside Russia would mean the NATO allies are directly at war with Russia, and that, quote, appropriate decisions would be made to those threats. We just heard Fred Pleitgen's reporting there about how they've changed the wording around their nuclear rules. Are you concerned about that piece of it?
No, there are two aspects to this. Number one, this threat of a wider war. That's the phrase we've heard day after day after day in the last 2.5 years from the Biden administration. Could be conventional, could be nuclear. If it's a conventional threat, where's the Russian army that's going to provoke this wider war? And by the way, if it's so good and so expensive, why isn't it fighting in Ukraine in the first place?
No way Bolton's cooking right now.
Performance of Russian combat arms so far. And as to the nuclear threat, look, that change in Russian doctrine was insignificant. We have never renounced the first use of nuclear weapons if we need to, and basically that's all they're saying. We have testimony from the heads of U.S. intelligence agencies in public sessions that despite multiple rattlings of the nuclear saber by Putin and others, there's never been a redeployment of Russian nuclear forces. I'm not saying you don't take it seriously, but if Putin can outbluff us, he gets what he wants for free.
I want to move on and talk a little bit more broadly about the incoming Trump administration. And you note that that's happening very soon, and then that will change not only the positioning likely in Ukraine, but more broadly a lot of foreign policy. I want to talk first about who the president-elect has selected for his director of national intelligence, former Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard. You have described her as a national security threat. What do you think, just having now had that information kind of set in and seeing that he is confident in pushing her forward, what do you think generally about that pick, if we can just get a little more thought on that? And then also, too, what might that mean for the war in Ukraine, where she has been known to spout some Russian propaganda?
Well, I think in the transition period, there's always a lot of blue smoke and mirrors from the incoming administration. This is a very serious mistake if Tulsi Gabbard is allowed to take over as Director of National Intelligence. To begin with, she has zero experience dealing with the intelligence community, and that position was set up by Congress, mistakenly in my view, but they set it up to coordinate all intelligence agencies within the government. She doesn't have the slightest idea what the job involves. As a member of Congress, she got intelligence briefings that she often said she didn't believe. I don't think she has any basis on which to manage this huge and critically important function of the federal government. And number two, she has over the years spouted delusional beliefs about events in Syria, about events in Iran, about Russian policy, that her own fellow members of Congress have said amount to repeating Russian propaganda. She's not capable of doing it. Her judgment is non-existent, and the idea that somehow she would be put in charge of this critical function should be giving our adversaries in Moscow and Beijing a lot of relief.
Do you expect the Senate Republicans to push back on this?
Well, I certainly hope they should. The Gabbard and Gates are the two worst appointments. There are others that are in controversy, but those are the two worst. Just because Donald Trump won a fairly narrow majority, maybe less than 2 percentage points, and an electoral college victory, all of 6 electoral college votes bigger than his 2016 win, is no excuse for the Senate to abandon its constitutional function. And I think there will be enough Republicans, maybe not a majority, but enough to block these nominations. And if they're not, we're in deep trouble.
Yeah, and you bring up Matt Gaetz. I did want to ask you about that. You've called him the worst nomination in American history. Elon Musk responded to you on X, calling you a, quote, dumb warmonger, saying your opposition to this pick is a good sign. I want to let you respond to that. I also want to get your thoughts on the role that Elon Musk is playing in this incoming administration.
Well, I don't particularly care about Elon Musk's opinion. He has no notion what the qualifications for Attorney General are, and I think somebody with Matt Gaetz's characters is a person that I'm surprised anybody wants to associate with. Look, Musk may have a big role here. It's not entirely clear what Trump is going to do with this Department of Government Efficiency. If we can save a couple $100 billion, I'd be delighted. We can spend it on the defense budget, which desperately needs an increase. In the meantime, I do believe that a sufficient number of Republican senators would say they will not abandon the separation of powers. They will see Gaetz as the threat that he is to the kind of professional Justice Department we want. If the complaint from Trump is the Department of Justice has been politicized by the Biden administration, then the remedy is depoliticize it. Matt Gaetz is exactly the opposite of that. He will make it worse, and I think could cause problems in the department it could take decades to repair.
And I know you've called for the FBI to investigate both Gabbard and Gaetz before any Senate confirmation hearings. We know that the Trump administration is looking to not do these FBI background investigations and checks before putting them up formally for their nominations. How do you think, again, just getting back at this, just what Senate Republicans might say about this? And do you think it's worth them really pushing back on this if they're not getting all of the information they need to properly vet these individuals?
Yeah, look, these FBI background investigations are absolutely customary for all cabinet nominees and most of the senior appointments below the cabinet level. They're not singling out Gaetz or Gabbard to put them through this process. And particularly when you're talking about the top law enforcement official of the federal government, who has an enormous national security role, overseeing the FBI, overseeing counterintelligence, overseeing prosecutions by the National Security Division, as well as the law enforcement functions. We can't have somebody with the kinds of flaws it looks like Matt Gaetz has. And similarly with Tulsi Gabbard, the ultimate keeper of our secrets is somebody, if she can't get through an FBI full field investigation, who in his right mind can vote for her for that job?
We really have to go, but I do just want to ask you quickly. So many Americans say we don't trust the government. They want Trump to kind of rhetorically, burn it down, essentially. They don't want norms anymore. What do you say to them when it comes to this sort of thing? We don't want the norms. It's fine. Let them blow past what's normal here.
Well, it's the proper functioning of the Justice Department serves everybody, and people have to say, if we burn it down here, this is like the quote from Thomas More in A Man for All Seasons, once you've flattened all the laws, who will protect you against the winds that will blow across this country?
It was kind of a
happy
former U.S. ambassador to the United Nations and
let's turn now to the fact that one of your now former members, former Congressman Matt Gaetz of Florida, has been nominated for U.S. Attorney General. Gaetz, as you know, had been facing a House Ethics Committee investigation over numerous allegations, including one that he had sex with a 17-year-old. We should note that Gaetz denies that allegation. On Wednesday, you said this about the House Ethics Committee's investigation.
The Speaker of the House is not involved in that, can't be involved in that, so I'm not really the person probably to answer that question.
But on Friday, you did want something to do with it. You said the House Ethics Committee report should not be released. In between those two comments, you did speak with President-elect Trump. Did he encourage you to change your position and to squash the House Ethics Committee report from being released?
No, he did not. The President and I have literally not discussed one word about the ethics report, not once. And I've been with him quite a bit this week between Washington and Mar-a-Lago. And last night in Madison Square Garden. But this is what I'll tell you about that. What I said is entirely consistent. The Speaker of the House is not involved in ethics committee work, can't be, shouldn't be, because the Speaker can't put a thumb on the scale or have anything to do with that. So I have no idea what the contents of this report would be. I didn't even know about it, Jake, until the middle of this week when it was announced in the press. What I have said with regard to the report is that it should not come out. And why? Because Matt Gaetz resigned from Congress. He is no longer a member. There's a very important protocol and tradition and rule that we maintain that the House Ethics Committee's jurisdiction does not extend to non-members of Congress. I think that would be a Pandora's box. I don't think we want the House Ethics Committee using all of its vast resources and powers to go after private citizens. And that's what Matt Gaetz is now. He is no longer a member of Congress. So I think that's a really important guardrail for the institution, and that's what I was speaking to in those sound bites.
The House Ethics Committee in the past has released reports of individuals who resigned from Congress. Congressman Bonner, Congressman Lukens.
Bonner.
The House Ethics Committee, after the resignation of Mark Foley, even began an investigation and then released a report. So it's not unprecedented, and there are a number of Senate Republicans. I mean, this report's already done. It's not a question of continuing it. It's finished. There are a number of Senate Republicans who want to see it. They say it's important to their advice and consent role. Take a listen.
I think there should not be any limitation on the Senate Judiciary Committee's investigation, including whatever the House Ethics Committee has generated.
And we should have access to it one way or another based on the way that we do all of these nominations.
Don't the American people, and more importantly, don't the people who are going to be voting on Matt Gaetz' confirmation to be the top law enforcement officer of the United States, don't they have a right to see that report that has been paid for by taxpayer dollars?
Two important points here, Jake. Number one, my understanding is that the report is not finished. It's in a rough draft form, was not yet ready to be released. And since Matt Gaetz left the Congress, I don't think it's appropriate to do so. There have been, I understand, I think 2 exceptions to the rule over the whole history of Congress and the history of the Ethics Committee. But I wasn't the Speaker at that time. I'm the Speaker now. The Speaker does not have the authority to stop the release of a report by the Ethics Committee, but I've just simply said what I believe is an obvious point, that we don't want to go down that road. I don't think you want the House Ethics Committee investigating Jake Tapper or any other private citizen. You're not a member of the institution. There's a reason that it is limited in its scope and jurisdiction. The Senate has a role, the advice and consents role under the Constitution, and they'll perform it. They'll have a rigorous review and vetting process in the Senate, but they don't need to rely upon a report or a draft report, a rough draft report, that was prepared by the Ethics Committee for its very limited purposes.
So beyond the question of whether or not Congressman Gaetz broke the law, and certainly there's a presumption of innocence for anyone, a lot of House Republicans, your colleagues, the people you lead, have real issues with Matt Gaetz as somebody to lead the U.S. Justice Department. I'm sure you've heard them, because I've heard them. I want you to take a listen to now Senator, former House member, Markwayne Mullin of Oklahoma, talking to our Manu Raju months ago about Matt Gaetz.
He was accused of sleeping with an underage girl. And there's a reason why no one in the conference came and defended him, because we had all seen the videos he was showing on the House floor that all of us had walked away of the girls that he had slept with. He'd brag about how he would crush ED medicine and chase it with an energy drink so he could go all night.
So just to take a step back, because you and I have known each other for a long time. You're a man of faith. You're a man of God. You're a man of family.
Oh, my God.
With some of these nominees, Gaetz, Hegseth, RFK Jr., I wonder, does it matter anymore for Republicans to think of leaders as people who are moral in their personal lives? Is that still important to the Republican Party?
No.
Sure, it's an important issue for anyone in leadership. This is what I'll say about the nominees that the president has put forward, is that they are persons who will shake up the status quo. And I think what the American people have believe and what they've delivered with the mandate in this election is a demand that we shake up the status quo. It's not working for the American people. So use the term in the opening about how these are disruptors. They are. I think that's by design. any president has the right to name their own cabinet, to nominate persons that they think will fulfill their agenda. And the people that are on this list will do that. They will go into the agencies that they're being asked to lead, and they will reform them. These agencies need reform. And I think the vast majority of the American people understand that. You can't have status quo appointments in a moment like this. I'm really excited about the days ahead. I think the America First policies will deliver for the American people. I think we're going to have a warm embrace of all the new folks who came into the Republican Party in this election cycle, the demographic shifts that we saw that were historic, because we have a chance now to demonstrate for them that our policies, our conservative constitutional policies, common sense policies are best for them as individuals and families and communities and states and the nation as a whole. So exciting days ahead. It is a new day in America. These individuals will help deliver that, and I think the Senate needs to do its job and get them appointed so that the President Donald J. Trump and J.D. Vance can begin that administration and run with it on day one.
All right, Speaker Johnson, good to see you, sir. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks a lot, Jake. Good to see you.
Epic. That was epic. Johnson is so excited and confident about being able to implement these policies. I don't know, bro. I just kind of... I'm just in vibe mode now. I can't possibly bring myself to care. It's literally a meme government. Literally a meme government. And they're proud of that. So.
Nothing's broken, you're fine.
Moving as ordered.
Okay, I'll go.
Easy clap.
Developments, I take it?
Hostile target down. They're onto me. X-ray neutralized. Here. Target eliminated. Target neutralized. Burning through ammo fast. Jetzt komme ich. Target neutralized.
Moving out.
I am on my way.
I can make it. You don't belong here. Hiding out. Legen wir endlich los.
I'm trusting you here.
It's a fucking stupid government. Calling it a meme is a compliment. I don't know. I think a stupid government is better than a meme government. I don't know. Like,
Steer clear of
fucking
those
making a
berserkers.
Doge
They can't do
department.
much from range, but they're lethal up close.
What are we doing? That's ridiculous. What kind of garbage is that? That little resistance fighter is fucked. That was like the fucking black.com meme.
Fire spreading! On the move. Und los geht's.
Can we get a drone strike? No way, bro, stuck on a log.
I'm going. Come get some. Moving. Shot
Come
wide.
on. What are you doing?
Volk says I am to obey. Reapers are always vigilant.
If you say so. much.
Go, go!
Okay, now you go hide in this truck before you die. Look, there's medical supplies. Why don't you use those?
Get ready to storm the place.
Moving to designated coordinates.
Come on, focus!
I concur.
Grappling! Affirmative, covering now.
I'm on the move.
Tell your gods I'm
My
coming.
ammunition is nearly depleted. I am trusting you.
I'll go. Settle down, you're fine.
Position.
I have faith in you, but you can't stop that thing.
I guess that'll be okay.
Together we are strong. My training fails me.
They found us.
Hostile terminated.
They've got eyes on me.
Weapons spent. We're green to go.
I'm on it.
I just realized my shit was muted. Still new. You know, amateur mistakes. Okay, first of all. Yes, you. Are you fucking kidding me?
Missed the target. Is it clear? Hit the
I'm reloading. As you order, Commander.
It's still moving. It's down.
Ridiculous.
Weapons burning ammo fast.
Here, catch!
You got it.
Let's not waste time.
Yes, go for the Tachikoma. Ignore the soldiers. Wow, great. Epic. Good turn. Sexy little sectoids. The things we do to them.
Diablos!
Diablos. Come on, you can do it.
X-ray neutralized. I'm all out. It's killing time. Death to the
We are
invaders.
compromised.
Yeah, that's right. We found him.
Just more and more enemies. It just doesn't end.
Target down.
Bro's still blocked by a rock.
Reloaded. Moving to Overwatch.
Check it before you get too close. Negative ammo. I'm spent.
I'll maintain my watch. Oh yeah! I'm going.
They got nothing.
Negative.
Ready to rock. Status confirmed. We've secured a civilian contact. I'm coming for you. I'm trusting you here. Got it covered.
We'll keep our distance and continue until the intercept point.
I'm all over it. I'm ready.
I don't like anything about this case.
Los! Verschwinden Sie hier!
I am at your service.
I can do that. Moving to fire position. Running. Fire in the hole.
The wind must have picked up. Now we fight in the open.
I don't want to hear your fucking excuses.
All right, I'll go. Smoke's up. I'm all right.
There's an Advent captain nearby.
How
We
many
should attempt to
fucking
disable it
enemies
with the
are on
skull
this
jack.
map, bro?
That was close.
Motherfucker.
Oh, Sie haben mich erwischt. They're all over me. Incoming fire. I would rather die in battle.
That's gonna
I think I'm bleeding.
Uh-oh. What happened to your shields, y'all? Uh-oh.
This is getting dangerous. The enemy strikes true. Target neutralized. Ziel erfasst! Ziele eliminiert! Moving on target location.
me time to reload. Good riddance. The shadows fail us. I will go.
You suck. I wonder if I get in the water if I'll put out the fire. Nice.
Job well done. Well, well.
Come on! Good riddance. Target eliminated.
That's still cover? That is cover. Okay, I'll try to go for an armor strip. Oh well.
Not even close.
No, it wasn't.
I'm under fire!
Oof. I don't know what you were aiming at, pal.
strength of the Templars ebbs and flows with
Am I
the
on
tide
fire
of
again?
combat. As we focus our energy, our power increases and can be unleashed upon our enemies.
She like relit. Did she run through fire? The fuck?
I'm on it. Is it clear? Take a look at this. Big deal. Orders confirmed. Moving out. Deflection!
My life is in your hands.
What's over there? Moving to Overwatch.
We have one less enemy.
Standing by for trash collection.
We've already completed the objective, so even if I have to abandon this mission, it's still a win.
I got it, right?
That armor's tough. Taking fire!
I have lightning reflexes even if he did target me.
Pin down!
See?
Hostile terminated. Target neutralized.
Hey, you hit that guy? Fuck it. Bitch. Oh, I got a second shot? Nice. Let's go. No. Oh.
This world is ours!
You're on fire again.
The elders have protected them well.
Oh my goodness.
Ready to go.
Ziel erfasst!
We have complete access to the Advent Psionic Network. I have dedicated our systems to processing the new data, but we will need to work fast. It is only a matter of time before they detect our intrusion. Commander, that appears to be the Codex responsible for safeguarding the alien data stores. We'll have to neutralize it if we intend to recover the data. Understood. Weapons hot. We've got our target. That's it.
The trap is set. I take responsibility. We are known to them.
That was such a good fucking play. Yeah, you better run away.
Sie sind
Here
einfach
comes the
überall!
boom. We got the boom for you.
The Codex appears to be in a state of flux, existing simultaneously across multiple dimensions.
Yeah? That's neat.
Rock!
I have never seen anything like this. The Codex is projecting multiple copies of itself into our dimension.
Tech guys will love this. Hunt them down. Good copy. Moving on target.
That was close.
My God, bro. How did you miss?
Wie viele waren das jetzt? Ich muss bald nachladen. What's over there? For the Reapers! I need ammo to hunt.
Excellent work, Commander. It appears some physical remnant of the Codex was left behind when it dissipated. Hopefully, it will provide some insight into the aliens' ongoing plans.
I'm already on it.
Whoa! Man. You bitch. You're a fucking bitch. You suck.
Heading out. Du warst kein Gegner für mich. Die Waffe ist leer. I hope it's worth it. That armor's tough. Understood. Moving out. I must reload. I will go.
Okay, I'll go. I definitely got that one. Run and dry! Here.
That seems reasonable. On the move. Heading out. Overwatch.
Menace 1-5, status confirmed. We're not picking up any additional contacts. The AO is clear. Status confirmed. Mission accomplished.
55 enemies. My goodness. That just crazy.
I'd like to pay tribute to Ethan Klein and the new Twitch TOS that declares Zion.
All right. Now something awful. Time for torture.
Zion is the slur. I'd like to pay tribute to him by playing the first in Al-Aqsa video game where you kill Zionist soldiers as a Palestinian resistance fighter. I want to go over something that recently happened to this game. Now, this is a game that is quite simply a basic shooter video game where instead of killing Arabs as an American, you kill Israeli soldiers as a Palestinian. And this game has been like massively, for no reason aside from the fact that it dares to depict an Arab as the hero and Israelis as the villain. They denounce it as like a terrorist game when you fight nothing but soldiers. And recently, this game was geo-blocked in the UK on a request from the Counter-Terrorism Internet Referral Unit. Ethan Klein would think, this game is so anti-Semitic. Killing Israeli soldiers who are trying to genocide you, that's anti-Semitic. That's what he would say. And credit where credit is due to Steam. The game was geo-blocked and they told the creator about it, but they still let the game be up. They didn't ban it or anything. At least they're not ceding to Zionist lobby pressure. They're not fucking cowardly pieces of shit like Twitch is. The maker of this game, Nidal Najim, I don't know, I probably pronounced that wrong, but Nidal is a Palestinian refugee who lives in a fucking slum in Brazil. A guy who lives in poverty, and this is his only income, making a game where Palestinians fight Zionist soldiers that is constantly under endless attack by this global Zionist lobby everywhere, just because an Arab is the hero and Israeli genocidal Zionist soldiers are rightfully depicted as the villain. I think that what we should do to pay tribute to Zionist Ethan Klein is play this game, and this level specifically. Looks fun to me. See what I mean? Stand with us, like Israel lobbying organizations upload videos denouncing this game as terrorism because it's a fucking Palestinian fighting Israeli genocidal soldiers. I mean, American video games literally have moments.
This isn't actually a response to Ethan Klein. I hate this guy, man. I was like, oh, fucking great cringe, and it's just him. Look, I'm gonna play a game. Instead of respond to Ethan, I don't care enough about him.
What are we even doing here? These are 5 cans from my cupboard that, for whatever reason, I know I'm just never gonna open them. These are cans either left over from making a video, or they're cans that I thought would be featured in a video and they just never really made it. I guess until now. Now they're in a video. Woo! Okay. Number 1, Titus sardines in soybean oil. So I think I had one of these, and I won't bury the lead. They're Moroccan, they're scaly, they're pilchards. So you can tell just from looking at sort of how the can is a little bit fatter on this dimension and a little skinnier on this dimension that they're pilchards. Gosh, they're in soybean oil. People hate soybean oil. Every time I do anything with something in soybean oil, they're just like, Matt, you're gonna grow and then die. Yeah, sure. Moroccan sardines are so good, especially when they feature Moroccan flavors. But usually they just put them in like olive oil. But like Titus, they just put them in soybean oil. Next, Roland sardines. Now, people like these. People have mentioned these on r/canned sardines. I
there's
hear
a
they're
fucking
okay.
subreddit for you
I believe
people.
it. On this side, it says Roland sardines in olive oil. And look at this happy little pilchard here. And he's wild caught. Yeah, no Roland. No. All sardines are wild caught. Everybody says wild caught on their thing. They're trying to wind up on the handsome end of a false dichotomy where they want you to think that there's some scumbag sardine brand out there that is farming crappy sardines and trying to sell them to you when they're all just wild caught. So let's just get over ourselves, huh? So yeah, oh yeah, this is all in English, sure. But on this side, whoa, we must have a fancy box of sardines because it says Roland Sardinas and aceite de oliva. Ooh, pesca salvaje. Geez, are these Spanish sardines? No, silly, because if they were Spanish, we'd write, oh, product of Spain, all over the box. No, they're from Morocco. Where does it say this? It says all this, oh yeah. Product of Morocco. These are gonna be pretty good, man. They're gonna be pretty good, but just a video on yet another pilchard is just, I don't think it's gonna do it. Number 3, King Oscar, wild caught sardines in water. Oh, I wanna be on the boat when those guys are bringing in those wild caught sardines, not on the farm. I just made a King Oscar sardines in water video. If your diet is calling for something like this, you can pretty much do no better. But Matt, when are you gonna eat them? Never. Number 4, Freshe. Small meals, big protein. I had one of these on my Patreon feed. It was like another flavor. Maybe it was salmon with different ingredients. This is wild tuna, red beans, succulent corn, sweet red peppers, chopped onion, Aztec ensalada. The coolest thing about this tin is that it's got a photograph of some kind of embroidery here. You're an intern at a law firm in Manhattan, and instead of spending $18 plus tip on a lunch every day, you bring this in and you pour it over some lettuce that you brought to, and it's your little lunch, and it's great, and we're eating healthy. Fresh. I don't know. I just don't care. I don't know how to make you interested in it. That's the real problem. Finally, this is it's what the French call the pièce de résistance. Brunswick, I guess, is a Canadian brand, right? Boneless. Sure. Butterflied. What do you mean by butterflied? I mean, I know what I mean by butterflied. It means that you took the sardine and you went, ooh, like this, right? Yeah, and you've got the spine on this side, and yeah, Sardine fillets, served in olive oil. Oh, served. I don't know. They're in olive oil. Then we go on the back. Ingredients, herring. Huh? Contains herring. I thought these were sardines. No, they're herring. They're, Clupea harengus. An indulgent olive oil. I bet that when you open this up, it's gonna look like a freaking war zone, man. I don't think it's gonna be like awesome, cool, butterflied herring fillets. I think it's gonna be like, oh man, oh my God.
All right, let's open them. Let's see what these really look like.
Wow, how suspenseful. Quality content. Hey, it's Patreon shout-out time. Joining the Dean's List, it's Justin Chan. And the new fishy freak is Kimbo Sampson. Thanks, you guys. Thanks to all the Patreon folks, and thanks to everybody else for watching and for their enthusiasm for canned fish. Back to the show. I'm wrong. I'm totally wrong. Okay. All right. They're actually kind of orderly in here. So, Brunswick, my bad. You guys actually put the fish in the can pretty straight up.
What is happening?
Y'all, let me just tell you, they don't smell like sardines. They smell like freaking herring. There's a difference.
Oh my goodness.
And it's real. This ain't bad. It's like Kipper snacks, almost, Oh, except it's an indulgent olive oil. Cans I'll never open. It's been like less than 5 freaking minutes. You guys, this has been really fun. I've really been into it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
Epic prank.
მოხსენი კამერა.
ეკავა ამის შემდეგ დაწერა და რომელთა შესახებ უკვე მაყურებელს კარგადაა ცნობილი ამ რიცხვების შესაბამისად ქართულ ოცნებას უფიქსირდება თითქმის 54% ქართულმა ოცნებამ ამ არჩევნებს სანდო ნიშნავს მხოლოდ ივანიშვილის რეჟიმი ყველა დანარჩენი ავტორი კი წევრებს საარჩევნო ადმინისტრაციის და
Right now, Senator-elect Ruben Gallego joins me to talk about his historic election victory and what he'll do in the U.S. Senate.
Pretty quiet, guys.
Also on Sunday Square Off, Governor Katie Hobbs says she's focused on the future after Democrats were drubbed on Election Day. Will that future be a rerun of Hobbs' first 2 years in office? Can Arizona's divided government come together to save hundreds of millions of dollars in school funding? The judge overseeing Arizona's fake electors case is forced to step down. What happened and what comes next?
I'm a husband, a Marine, a father, and a proud Arizonan. And with the results we saw tonight, your next senator from the great state of Arizona.
We start with Democratic Senator-elect Ruben Gallego of Phoenix declaring victory and making history, winning election as the first Latino senator in Arizona's 112 years of statehood. With a vast majority of ballots counted statewide, he leads Republican Kari Lake with 50.1% of the vote to 47.7% for Lake. Now, right after that speech Monday night, Gallego took a red-eye to Washington, D.C. for a new senator's orientation, and that's where we find the senator-elect this morning. Congratulations, sir, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, Bram.
I'm getting a lot of questions about what is a new senator's orientation like? Don't they know where the cafeteria is, the bathrooms? What are you learning?
Well, look, while you are in the same building, you know, when you're in Congress, you rarely cross over there because you have a lot of work going on this side. But really, it's the rules and decorum, a lot of the ethics that you have to follow that are a little different from the House side, procedural things, how to set up your office, how to hire staff, you know, your committee assignments, working for, you know, and also you start meeting other members of the Senate, Republicans and Democrats. So you start forming relationships with them so you could start working together as soon as possible.
Do you have your committee assignments yet?
No, I put in my requests, and you know, they're very much focused on Arizona to try to make sure that we push forward with the agenda that I heard from Arizonans while running for U.S. Senate, and let's hope I get them.
Top one, what's the one you really want?
Well, I don't want to reveal too much because this is a lot of gamesmanship that you have to negotiate with other U.S. senators. But at the end of the day, it's going to be focusing on a couple of things. Number one, border security.
Why are you honking?
Number two, bringing down the costs of everyday living in Arizona, whether it's bringing more middle-class tax cuts, child tax credit, child care tax credits, and other you know, programs basically to bring down the cost of housing.
All right, let's talk about the campaign. You're the only success story in a red wave year here in Arizona. You had to overcome a historic registration advantage for Republicans. Why are you the last one standing in 2024?
There seems to be a theme in my life, to be honest. Look, I work very, very hard. And I think the difference between me and a lot of other campaigns, I started this campaign 23 months ago. And I started by understanding that Arizona is a center right-leaning state, to be honest. And I had to make sure that I spoke to my Republican friends, which I was lucky enough to have a lot of from my time in service in the state house, and just in general working in civic life in Arizona. And I just went out and I spoke to them and I talked to them about what Arizona of the future looks like working together. And we didn't get every
I think he would have
Republican
won
that we met with.
regardless. He's
We
running
didn't
against
get the
Carrie
support.
Lake.
But we got enough, and now
She's so
it's
cringe.
my job is to bring that home to them. I think that's what the message was out there. This is why we really, not just in Arizona, but we did very well compared to many candidates across the country.
And you certainly did better than Kamala Harris did here. Arizona voters are notorious ticket splitters. And it looks like both you and Donald Trump benefited from votes from Latino men. How do you explain that?
Well, from my experience, as someone that grew up,
Because Trump Tower has the best
Latino
taco
men
bowls.
are worried about two
Cinco de
things,
Mayo, baby.
Economic security and family security. And the failure for Democrats to control that border, especially when it got particularly bad, I think the hesitancy of this administration really turned off a lot of those Latino men. This is why we were very active in making sure we're pushing forward for more border security. We're very
I remember
strong.
it wasn't that long ago. I was like, is there anything that because we see a lot of authoritarian regimes, they'll make up a problem and then make themselves the solution. And I was like, at the time I was like, does America do this? And I was trying to think about something, and then it's so obvious now.
Bipartisan security, border security bill, and we're actively talking about what measures we need to do, as well as economic security. There's nothing worse as someone who has been in a situation where you work so hard, and this is not just Latino men, I think this is just anyone in general, when you work so hard and you're still not making the bills, or you still feel that you're only one paycheck away from falling through. And as things were turning around, and they were without a doubt, it was much too late. And I think, unfortunately, Vice President Harris paid for a lot of the mistakes that happened under the Biden administration, because she just couldn't get her message out that I think was an important message about, increasing wages, bringing good paying jobs, health care for our families, while at the same time bringing down costs.
And so what's the message for the Arizona Democratic Party, the larger party, about coming elections, about how the electorate has changed and how the party maybe needs to change its message?
Well, the one thing that we did, I think, very different from maybe all campaigns across this country, is that we recognize that Latino voters were a swing voter from day one. So when we started the campaign in 23 months ago, we started talking to especially Latino men, and we did it in very creative ways: boxing, watching boxing watch parties, loteria games, concerts. I mean, all these things that we knew were a better way to approach it, even in emphasizing reaching them on YouTube more than on TV. And so I think what it means is that you have to make sure that you're treating this community as someone that is a swing community. You have to start talking to them early and often. You have to talk to them not necessarily just about immigration and the border, but you should also be talking about the future, right? Because the Latino community, much like every other community in Arizona, wants to have the American dream. They want to buy a home, or even younger people, they just want to be able to move out of their parents' house and go afford an apartment, right? They want to be able to, have a wage that actually pays for a decent living. And until we can focus on that and be the party that shows them that we're the ones that can do that, then we're going to have a tougher time winning those votes. So focusing on bringing down the cost of living, bringing more security, higher wage jobs, and really being able to live the American dream is something that it's important for us to get that vote, but also the vote of all Arizonans.
Has Carrie Lake called you to concede?
No calls and no tweets and no Snapchats at this point. But for me, it's time to move on. This election is over. It's time to focus on Arizonans and not past elections. And I don't need the phone call. Let's just move forward and let's make Arizona a better state.
I have to ask you about the filibuster. You wanted filibuster reform. You want to clear it out so Democrats could get things done in the Senate. Now you are in the Senate minority. How do you feel about the filibuster now? Is it a good thing?
Look, I've been very consistent on this. I think the filibusters actually was causing a lot of the problems in this country because nothing ever gets done when people elect Democrats or Republicans. They feel, if anything, that their vote was wasted. Had we actually had at least a reform filibuster, which is what I'm for, which is something that goes back to the actual founding of the country, which is you actually have to talk it out. You just don't get to write a piece of paper saying you're not going to debate this anymore. We would have had immigration reform by now. We would have had more border security. We would have had probably the child tax credit that would have actually helped everyone that dealing with inflation. It's not my job to make the Republicans' job easier. It's my job to represent Arizona. But my point is very consistent, the fact that if we're ever going to get anything done to actually help Arizonans, to help working class people, we have to reform the filibuster.
Even though Republicans right now, if it had been reformed, might have free reign or close to it in the Senate?
Well, if it had been reformed, Bram, my contention is we would have passed a border security bill that would have actually brought more people to understand that Democrats are here for border security. We would have had dreamers, by the way, now that would be not worrying about whether or not they're going to be deported because we would have passed the DREAM Act almost 10 years ago. We probably would have been able to pass a real tax reform package that would have given Arizonans and working class people a child tax credit and child care. These are the things that we have not been able to do because we have not reformed the filibuster. And this is why we're losing working class people, because every time we try to do something to help working class
Why are
people,
you dancing?
for example, a minimum wage increase, filibustered. And not
Honk,
like a very
honk,
generous
He
minimum wage increase. I'm
honking
talking
up
about
a storm right
$10
now.
minimum wage increase, which would even affect Arizonans. So this is what we have to contend to. Are we going to be the party that is all about process, or about actually delivering results for people that they actually can see and say, like, I understand why I vote for a Democrat right now, because it gets me higher wages, lower costs, and more security. Until we start producing that and are focusing more on process, we're not going to be winning elections.
I want to put a timestamp on this. We're talking Friday morning.
I
Lots
bought a
could
new
happen
feed
over
to
the
watch
next
YouTube on it.
by the time
I'm
we get to
doing
Sunday,
both.
especially with Donald Trump.
And it's not a new PC.
That could happen in the next hour.
In the next hour, we've been watching President-elect Trump nominate, or say he's going to nominate, people to top jobs in his administration. Many of them have some pretty questionable backgrounds, and there are a lot of doubts about whether they are up to the job. Matt Gaetz, Pete Hegseth, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. What word would you use to describe these appointees?
Look, I'm not going to play those type of word games or anything like that. The focus on the nominations are going to be a couple of things. Number one, first and foremost, protecting the Constitution of the United States. I think that's a very important mark that we have to make sure that nominees pass. Number two, is this going to be good for the safety and security of Arizonans? And number three, is this going to help, where relevant, bring down the cost to everyday Arizonans? That's going to be my, my dividing line. And I will say there are some questionable nominees so far from this president. There are some very, I would say, favorable and very hopeful nominees that I look forward to talking to also. But we're going to have a very clear and transparent process that Arizonans will know who and why I'm supporting them or not supporting them.
Who are the hopeful ones, people you think show promise?
Look, I think, though I don't agree with them 100% on everything, I do think that Marco Rubio, Elise Stefanik, and Waltz are probably decent picks. I have to go through the confirmation process. We'll sit down and meet with them as part of that in my office, and I'll talk to them specifically about some of my concerns on some of their policy views. But I know all of them in a personal capacity, one or the other. Waltz was on my subcommittee when I was the chairman of Intel Special Operations. We went to Ukraine together. I invited him to be part of my delegation. He's a veteran, Iraq and Afghanistan veteran like myself. Elise Stefanik and I have known each other since college. And again, we've had some disagreements and some strong disagreements, but I will, give her an opportunity because I want to see where her world policy.
Area and eliminate the target along with any other hostiles that stand in your way.
Roger that. Heading there now.
What would appear to be a single entity is actually a swarm of tiny robotic units working in to maintain a cohesive form.
Moving to designated position.
Fucking cloud room? What's going on in there?
Immediately!
Neil Green.
Moving out.
Boy.
On the move.
Me muevo a la posición.
With pleasure.
I trust you. Completely. I can't believe you committed suicide.
Seems doable. I've got eyes on Advent troops. I'm all over it.
Ubicación confirmada. We're picking up an inbound Advent transport. The aliens are going to try and extract the general from the AO. Don't let him get on board that ship.
Grenade!
¡Esquiva esto! Aquí llegan disparos.
Yeah, you wish you hit me. Wouldn't stop me.
Tropas eliminados.
Oh, he lived. Okay, they'll kill him next turn.
No use running!
Oh, they live too.
A feat not really hard to accomplish.
And there it is. That's great though. 2 suicide vests and they live. Take a shot next turn that eats up 2 shots on the enemy. That's some good shit right there. This robot alive or dead?
Won't even know what hit him.
Doesn't affect the bleed out time. Epic.
Yo!
You're so silly little bull. Oh, they're gonna live too, and it's already spoiling it to me.
Menace 1-5, kill confirmed. That's how it's done. We need to clear the area of any remaining hostiles. We can't allow them to recover the General's body.
Come get some.
I understand. Bitch.
Bitch.
Hostile neutralized. No problem, boss.
Okay. I have to let chinchillas out and prepare for show tomorrow.
We are.
So, see y'all later. Maybe not. It's only I thought it was much longer in. Okay. Let's check this out.
We are back, and we are joined now by Jean Su, director of the Center for Biological Diversity's Energy Justice Program, whose piece in the New Republic is entitled "Trump's Election is a Disaster for the Climate and an Opportunity." Jean, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
So, rough, obviously, news. Week and a half at this point.
That's the sound a doggy makes.
Especially, honestly, with COP29 and what's the horrible news that came out of COP29. Let's just start there, where we are in combating climate change and what some of the conclusions were out of the conference.
Great. So usually I am at the conference right now, but because I'm very pregnant, so I cannot be there. But my
congratulations.
Thank you. Terrible time for many things. Yeah. So the conference is still out there. It has 1 more week to go, but Trump has said that he will be pulling out of the Paris Agreement on day 1 of his administration, and so we've seen.
Are we going to act like
during
COP29 is real?
1.0, he did the same thing. And I think there's a double-edged sword with that type of decision. So, on the one hand, terrible that the U.S., which is the largest oil and gas producer in the world, is pulling out of the Global Collective Action Agreement. And at the same time, the U.S. unfortunately has played a really obstructive role in all climate negotiations, which is why we haven't seen the type of collective action we need. So the potentially one silver lining of Trump pulling out is that we don't have that obstructive force in the collective climate agreements anymore, which means that, really we're looking for global leadership, especially from the EU and other places that have large oil and gas production. And we're looking for them to really step up and get into that leadership vacuum and lead us into a place of true phase out for fossil fuels.
And can you talk a little bit about those limitations from an activist perspective of even the Paris Agreement, or the way that it's been really focused, I think, on the West maintaining economic hegemony while still addressing somewhat along the margins climate change, but not in any real way that would be transformative? Is it your view that it almost was a fig leaf and not necessary for what's the right word? Sufficient. Thank you, Matt. Sufficient to meet the activist needs?
It's totally insufficient, but it is the vehicle that we're working with. So one of the landmark things that happened last year, and so we're on COP29 right now. So last year was COP28. It was in Dubai, which is one of our major fossil fuel producers in the world. This year it's in Azerbaijan, and you can smell the gas out there. They put in the smell so that you can smell it, and so it's smothered in gas. Last year, we had, for the first time in 28 years, the acknowledgement of countries of fossil fuels. Because the Paris Agreement and all of the words that have been spilled on the page of climate change refused ever to write down the words fossil fuels. So last year we had this incredible breakthrough that the countries recognized it, and then they said, we're going to transition away from fossil fuels. So that was the landmark after 29 years saying something like that. And then they had a loophole that said, natural gas could be a bridge fuel, like we kind of need it, and all these other loopholes inside of it. So to your question, is it sufficient? Absolutely not. From a climate activism perspective, what are those COPs used for? They're really important for global action. And I know that sounds a little bit like a contradiction, but that is the place in the world where you have climate activists. And when I say climate activists, I'm not necessarily talking about organizations that do climate activism, but really people on the ground who are suffering this the most. Friends from Pakistan whose families were completely wiped away by the floods. Friends in Madagascar who have come because they experienced the first climate-induced famine. These are the people who are being burdened the most by the climate crisis that we in the West are disproportionately producing. So these are the moments where really people can rise together and force people to come to the table. One of the most heartbreaking parts about last year is that we were, we, the civil society and the public, were all pressing for actual words that said phase out fossil fuels. That is exactly kind of the language we need, not this watered down transition off of fossil fuels. And the people fighting at the front of that were all the Pacific Island nations. They are the ones whose existence is completely under literally and figuratively under threat. They are about to go underwater, and they're the ones pushing for the most aggressive phase out of fossil fuels. And they essentially were completely steamrolled over by the West, by the US, by Saudi Arabia as well. And that's why we got that watered down language. But that is the moment in time where people around the globe can face each other and I hope have some type of consciousness about how destructive the West and oil and gas producing nations are.
Right, and the figures that came out of COP29 in the fact that coal, oil, and gas emissions rose by 0.8% last year is deeply concerning, because the target was supposed to be a 43% drop by 2030, and the target was a 1.5 degrees Celsius temperature increase, and we're going to blow past that. So
we're going to blow past it.
Yeah.
And,
go ahead.
And I think for people who, a lot of these numbers are thrown around, the Paris Agreement has two numbers in it. One is 1.5 degrees Celsius. That's the first trigger. But then the real one they say that the countries are committed to is 2 degrees Celsius of warming. But why was 1.5 put in there? 1.5 is in there because that's actually the number where we will see African countries completely roast, where we will see Pacific Island nations go underwater. The developed
I'm just doing background tests as well. See how much RAM I can pull.
countries and rich countries didn't want to accept that as the target, so they said 2 degrees. But 1.5 is really game over for our poorest countries around the world. So we reached we are on target. I think we breached 1.5 already in terms of the temperature this year. We are not at that right now, but it'll keep fluctuating. But essentially, we are at a point where it is truly devastating for the rest of the world.
And when you say roast, is that essentially meaning likely mass death in these areas, not just due to increased intensity and frequency of natural disasters, but just day to day in the hottest months, temperatures reaching certain thresholds where, especially in nations that are not as wealthy as the United States, you're not going to have mass air conditioning. You're not going to have places where you can go maybe to hide from some of these conditions. Is that what you're referring to?
That's what I'm referring to, and maybe it's too much of a real word to deal with, but it is incredible heat waves wiping sub-Saharan Africa and in other places where temperatures are hot. But Emma, I mean, the fact of the matter is that the US this year actually experienced the same things. Phoenix, I think, reached over 120 degrees Fahrenheit. And unfortunately, in the US, it's not about a rich country versus poor country divide anymore. It's about the rich versus the poor. And in the US, we have seen over this past year that communities all over the South do not have access to air conditioning. Communities all over the North as well, because they are traditionally cold, were absolutely unprepared for these heat waves, and people died up there as well because they didn't have air conditioning. So it is the poorest of the poor. We know of family members who died in trailers that were set up by FEMA in the South, because those are crappy steel material that have no insulation, and people roasted to death because they did not have access to insulated areas. And electricity prices are rising up the wazoo because utilities keep charging us fossil fuel gas prices. And so, the U.S. is in a terrible position on heat. We actually submitted a huge petition to FEMA to actually get money for heat. We have under the Biden administration, no federal recourse for extreme heat, even though that is the #1 climate killer in the United States. So the U.S. Has to get up to shape. Now that we have this president, it's probably not, game over on that end. But those crises hit poor communities here just as bad as in other places.
And you mentioned Biden. We'll get to Trump in just a second. But where did he leave us domestically in terms of initiatives that the Biden administration passed? Obviously, there was some good pieces of the Inflation Reduction Act that was targeted at reducing emissions. A lot of it has based on the promulgation of electric vehicles, which we know is not is not going to meet the moment fully, obviously. But he also wanted to baby drill in his own way. Biden did to. It runs into conflict with union jobs and supporting that, and the future of the planet, and so it's a mixed bag from Biden, from my perspective. But what's yours in your work?
It's a severely mixed bag. Yes, the Inflation Reduction Act was a historic investment, but at the end of the day, compared to what we put in the military, it was just a drop in the bucket in terms of how much money that was put into it. It's supposed to roll out more wind farms, more solar farms, get manufacturing up for heat pumps. All of those are good things. And at the same time, the Biden administration increased oil and gas production at an unprecedented record, even higher than the Trump administration. So it will end at a point where oil and gas production will be higher than the Trump administration, higher than any administration we've ever had. And what that means on the ground for people is really real. The Permian Basin in New Mexico and Texas is considered one of the largest carbon bombs in the world. And the U.S. American oil and gas companies are fracking the heck out of that. And that means that communities on the ground are sucking in this pollution. They continue to die. Those oil and gas products get shipped or pipelined down to the Gulf Coast, where they are exported out. And at that point, we also have communities who are in Cancer Alley, who will again suffer the consequences of those actions. So we have, the detonation of an incredible carbon bomb under the Biden administration. The Trump administration started it, no doubt, but the Biden administration just kept going. And we have all the communities, all the environmental justice communities, Black communities, and poor communities, Indigenous communities, all in the wake of that, of all of that. I think it's really, my organization and so many others around the country for the last 4 years have been pushing the Biden administration to declare a climate emergency to phase out fossil fuels. And there are so many levers that the Biden administration has to actually phase out fossil fuels, starting from, just stopping permits, just saying no to permits, all the way to stopping the export of LNG, which is still underway right now. But we've just seen intractable resistance from them. It's totally irresponsible, I think, for the U.S. to try to phase out its own use of fossil fuels inside the country while exporting all of that oil and gas to other places around the world and polluting them. So it's I think it is a mixed bag, but it's also incredibly contradictory, and it's not what climate science requires.
I mean, just the idea that he approved the Willow Project is the kind of
Okay. Does it load? Am I covering a load? No. It's not too bad. It's a little jumpy. Really wasn't expecting the "I'm behind you." Cool. Great respawn.
Narrow but clean exit.
Okay. Okay, I can find you water, bro. Dead guys! Oh, look, blood packs. They're like decoration. How do I get out of here? Where's the quest? How do I start the mission? Is there a map? Hey, guns. I know the water level is critical. Where do I go? Okay, character management, that's nice. Man. Am I stupid? Can I just take shit? Okay. I'm not I'm not too worried about getting more complicated. I know, water level low. What do you want me to do about it? I can't do shit about it. Can't walk through these things. Right? Hanging bodies? Okay. How about this way? Ready room? Was it a... Hang on. Bring that back up. Okay. Boom. running great. Even on minimum. Why did it go back up to custom? Do they have borderless? Glow. Am I being killed? No, you stay over there.
Carry the fire in these parts.
No, I'm a good guy. I'm a good guy. I'm a good guy. Please leave me alone. I don't know. I don't think it ran very well, especially with the stream. So, I'll see how good it is off stream. But now it is time to let out the chinchillas, I think.